kind of a two-part thing, and it has to do with seasonal allergies. Ragweed is really prevalent in my neck of the woods, as they say, and I just hate taking Claritin D because it drives me out or dries me out. But so I was just wondering if you've made a video on ragweed or seasonal allergies or have any comments on that. And then secondly, because I can't breathe through my nose during allergy season, I become a mouth breather. And I recently listened to a podcast talking about how breathing through your mouth is bad on so many levels. And it also raises your anxiety level because it kind of puts you in a fight or flight mode. And I just was wondering if you've heard of that or if you have any previous videos or any comments on how to deal with seasonal allergies or draining constant stuffy nose.
Yeah, good one. Yes, I have multiple videos on this. Um, so let's see. I just have you search allergies on the YouTube channel um, for that because there's more than we can link to.
Okay.
But if we go to your question here, and yours is ragweed specific in your part of the world, there's multiple. It's an interesting topic. So the first thing that came to my mind when you were saying it before you even mentioned your symptoms, so that maybe there's someone out there that needs to hear this. There's this thing called oral allergy syndrome, or OAS. Okay, and what that is that there's environmental allergies like ragweed that cross react with foods that we eat, like melons or apples or bananas, and even latex, like a latex glove or a condom or something. Okay. And so oral allergy syndrome would be you eat a melon or an apple or a strawberry or banana or whatever, is specific to ragweed, and the body reacts or cross reacts to that melon consumption drives an allergy symptom. And oftentimes this looks like um, kind of like contact dermatitis around the mouth or rash or kind of hivey redness looking deal. Okay, so you know, if you notice during ragweed season that like eating certain foods make your allergies worse, or you get any of these oral symptoms, you may be having or experiencing oral allergy syndrome. And so looking up the fruits or foods that cross react with the certain allergen that you react to might be worthwhile to avoid those during the peak times. Now, if we jump over to Claritin, Claritin D dries me out. What can we do naturally to kind of try and achieve the symptomatic relief that Claritin D gives you? Sorry, I am not a good handwriter. Naturally. Okay. What options do you have? Made multiple videos on this too, but seasonal allergies are going to be histamine driven. Okay. So what do we have as natural antihistamines? A great one is quercetin. Quercetin's been tested in head-to-head studies against a pharmaceutical drug called cromolyn, which is pharma's best mast cell stabilizing drug. And mast cells are the cells that release histamine in our immune system. So when mast cells degranulate or when they pop, they release histamine. Okay, so a mast cell stabilizing drug is doing what it says. It's trying to stabilize the mast cell or prevent it from popping. Well, in head-to-head studies, quercetin wins every time against cromolyn. Its muscles are bigger. Okay, so you can use quercetin and see if that helps um, as well or better than a Claritin D or an Allegra or whatever, a Benadryl, whatever you're trying to use. Quercetin, you can get supplemental form. Quercetin's found from onion skins and apple skins. It's derived from nature. Another option you could try is N-acetylcysteine or NAC. NAC we've talked about many times in many ways. It's a Swiss Army knife. It's antiviral. It's liver detox supporting. It's a precursor to glutathione. It's got all kinds of functions for us. So N-acetylcysteine helps oppose the histamine side of the immune system. So helps swing you back to balance instead of being a net bias towards histamine and allergy type symptoms. So that's another good one. Bromelain is an enzyme that comes from pineapple that is a proteolytic enzyme and can help reduce histaminergic symptoms or histamine symptoms. So those are things you can look at. There's a stinging nettle is an herb that can be useful as well. But those are natural options for you. And then also um, a natural option that also kind of bleeds into this second question about the mouth breathing would be a nebulizer. And I've made a video on the nebulizer, more directed towards upper respiratory infections, but it can be used for allergies too, because you can use it for whatever you target, depending on what you put in the cup, what you want to nebulize. So if you're gonna nebulize for allergies and try and promote, um, you know, decongestion or promote clear sinuses so you can breathe through the nose too. You obviously want to watch that video and watch and see the recipe, but saline, 0.9% saline would be your base. You could add colloidal silver to it. You can add um, NaC to it. You can add the quercetin to it. So, like, what are you trying to impact? You'd add those things. I like adding 3% food grade hydrogen peroxide as well. So there's really you're only limited by your knowledge of what you could use, but a nebulizer would be a good way. And if you just nebulize saline, that would be a way to moisturize um, those passages if the Claritin D is drying you out. You could also neti pot too instead. So there's lots of options there. In terms of the mouth breathing and the impact on the nervous system or the anxiety, stress kind of deal. So if you're a mouth breather, that can impact your autonomic nervous system or ANS. And the ANS is the difference between the parasympathetic nervous system, which is it's like your vagus nerve is a huge player there, or it's kind of the rest and digest system. Okay. That's your meditation, your petting a dog, your relaxation, your sleep. Okay. So and then the opposition to that is the sympathetic nervous system. And this is tigers, right? This is our fight or flight response. This is the one we're all familiar with. Okay. And so the autonomic nervous system is made up of those two players, and it's really the dance between those two at all times. And so your blood pressure, when you take blood pressure, your top number, your 120s number, that's the sympathetic nervous system. And then the bottom number is the parasympathetic nervous system. So your 80s or whatever that is, right? So your blood pressure is literally a dance between your sympathetic and your parasympathetic nervous system. And so your heart rate variability is that dance. So the systolic number, which is the top number, is the sympathetic side pumping and forcing the blood out of the heart. The diastolic number, the bottom number, is that parasympathetic side relaxing and letting the heart open back up to receive more blood for the next pump. Well, when we're breathing, um, so inhalation is sympathetic, exhalation is parasympathetic. So oftentimes, if we're mouth breathing, we have a more rapid respiratory rate, we're breathing or shallow breaths, so we're not getting deep enough and truly oxygenating the tissue well, which can have hypoxic or inflammatory impacts. And um, so we're not taking deep enough breaths, and that puts us in like a 1-to-1 inhale versus exhale. But what you'd like it to be is at least a 2-to-1 exhale per inhale. So you want to exhale twice as long as you inhale. And if you meditate, you're probably familiar with this. So, you could inhale for a 4 count, you could hold for a 4 count, you could exhale for an 8 count, and then you could hold again for a 4 count. That's called box breathing. So it's like in for 4, hold for 4, out for 8, hold for 4. So maybe a rhombus breathing. Box breathing, I think they do in 4, out 4. But I like to double your exhale because that's the parasympathetic side. That's the relaxation side. Well, most of the time when you do that, you're inhaling through the nose. Well, if you're a mouth breather, you're missing that, right? So mouth breathers, you lose the nose stuff. And so you're again not getting the ideal oxygenation. So we want to conserve the nose breathing as best we can. Another strategy you can do there for the nose is breathe right strips. So you can go on Amazon and get extra strength breathe right strips, and they're those little strips you just put on your nose, and they lift your nostrils up for you and raise that nasal passage to allow more air through. And you can use these with sleep apnea. You can use them to help breathe better and address that. I've used them at night just to get myself more oxygen. If your nose is clear and you're not congested, you could use mouth taping, which will help keep your mouth closed at night and force you to breathe through your nose more. If you need to kind of train yourself, you could look on YouTube, just search mouth taping, and you'll see lots of stuff on that.
Wow. Thank you. Lots of great
Uh-huh.
information.
Any
Can
questions or
you,
comments?
yeah,
Yep.
the quercetin, does that have any drug interactions? Like, my mom is on Zoloft and she's not able to afford her allergy medicine anymore. I wasn't sure if
Okay.
that, like, if she would be able to take something like that with the Zoloft.
I'd have to look that up for you. I don't think so, but I'd have to look it up specifically.
Okay. Okay.
I would think not, and the reason for that would be quercetin. So we've covered a study in the past that looked at um, they took mice and they were trying to create depression in the mice, so they gave them a gut infection so they could study how the depression was caused. So they took mice that didn't have depression, they injected an infection in their gut, and that led to neuroinflammation. And the mechanism was the endotoxin from the bacteria that they put in their gut drove inflammation in the brain by raising histamine levels, and the increased histamine lowered serotonin in the brain. And so much so that in the study they used Lexapro as the drug, but the Lexapro was not useful due to the inflammation driving histamine up and serotonin down. And so the authors were like, well, then what we need to do is give Lexapro and an antihistamine. So just give more drugs. It's not that the SSRI isn't working, it's that we need more drugs. And we are like, no, dummies, you made the study. You're the ones who gave the mice depression. What did you do? You gave them a gut infection. Rather than stack drugs on, why don't you just clear the infection?
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
But the point the reason I'm telling you that is that if she's on an SSRI and it's not helping as much, maybe there's a histamine play there. And so if that's true, in the study when they lowered histamine, the Lexapro worked better. So the SSRI worked better when you lowered histamine. So if she's having allergy issues, histamine's probably a player. And if she can't afford the antihistamine medication, lowering the histamine naturally may help the efficacy of the medication.
Okay. I mean, like allergies, I mean, that's sort of an inflammation problem too, right? Is that
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. It's
Hmm.
just specifically it's a histamine biased inflammation.
Okay.
So if you can lower the histamine, the inflammation being driven by the histamine response, then you may impact the allergies. And in her case, since she's also, you know, on the medication for a psychiatric issue, you might improve the effectiveness of that medication, and or maybe she won't need it at all because the histamine induced neuroinflammation was behind the depression in the mice. So if that's true in her case, you might kill two birds with one stone.
Well, that's yeah. I'm trying. She's gotten off all of her other medication. One of them she couldn't afford. She quit taking the cholesterol medicine because she really didn't need it. And now
Hmm.
we just have the Zoloft left. And she's tried to come off of it before, and she had a lot of issues. She woke up in the middle of the night and like had to go outside. She was so claustrophobic. She had a really, really bad attack of some kind. And she
Hmm.
hadn't taken it for several weeks. And she stops taking it and then starts again. And I told her not to do that before. But
Did she
I, go ahead, sorry.
did she sorry, did she mention when she had, when she stopped, did she mention like she had zaps or electric shocks, like anything like that in her brain? I know it sounds weird,
I
but
don't think she mentioned that, but she didn't feel right. Like she was in a dead sleep and just woke up and had to like stand up and go outside. Like it was so bad that it woke her up out of her sleep. So
okay.
that could have happened and she just didn't realize it maybe. Maybe that's what woke her up. I don't know.
Okay, so I don't. I'm just for clarification. I know you know this, but I'm not her doctor, so this is speculative. But I
Right.
have I have experience with other patients on SSRIs, and when they're trying to come off them, they could have withdrawal symptoms, and one that is not uncommon is the zaps, so to speak. And so they say literally it feels like their brain's being shocked or zapped is how they describe it. And so what I've noticed with patients is that can be an issue of too little DHA or docosahexaenoic acid, which is the omega-3 fatty acid that is predominates in the brain. And so and many Americans are deficient in omega-3. So if she doesn't have sufficient DHA levels and you were to raise those up, that might make her journey coming off the medication less bumpy.
Okay. She's actually taken the omegas and a multivitamin, but again,
Okay.
she's not a great pill taker. So she's supposed to be taking that stuff. I'm not sure if she's taking it on a regular basis. I'll
Yeah.
just have to ask her and see what she says. But that's good to
Wouldn't
know.
Cool. Yeah.
wouldn't there be an issue with some vitamin Bs that would um, cause anxiety like that too?
If you are lacking, yeah, if you're lacking B's, that can definitely impact um, depression because B's are needed to produce serotonin. Um, and or if you're lacking B's, you might be not recycling homocysteine well, and homocysteine can build up and drive excitotoxicity, which could lead to anxiety, depression, seizure, migraine. Just depends on the person. But yeah, B vitamins are going to be very key for neurotransmitter physiology.